Hello everyone, it's Caitlin or kaitsim here on YouTube, and today I am doing a voiceover for the Simsie Circle Shell Challenge now. Let me very quickly tell you the inspiration for the home, and then I need to tell you a story, okay? So I decided I wanted to hide the circle as much as physically possible, so I made it into a Hobbit house, and now I am going to spend a lot of time messing with terrain, as well as messing with the landscaping. Lots of tool mod used, lots of patience, lots of time. All went into the exterior of this build, and you know what? It's stunning, and I'm very happy with it, so I don't mind. The smoothing tool and the terrain tools is probably my saving grace because it makes it look a lot prettier, but it did take me a hot minute to get it how I wanted it. But regardless, let's talk about the story, okay? I've already recorded this voiceover. Honestly, I feel like I recorded it twice, to be perfectly honest with you. Yesterday, I started recording, it was like 8:30. You know, my daughter started school today for the first day of school for first grade. So I was like, oh my goodness, I need to make sure that I get this voiceover done. I can edit the video, and then I need to get into bed so I can wake up on time because it's been summer. So I haven't had to wake up on time ever, okay? So I'm sitting here trying to record it, and all of a sudden my mom calls, and I'm like, oh, okay. So I answer it, and she just wanted to talk to my daughter, but my daughter was already in bed because it was 8 o'clock. And then I was like, all right, well, I was in the middle of recording the voiceover, so now I have to go back and figure out, because I record on a Mac. And so when somebody calls my cell phone, it goes onto my Mac. So I had to then go back and figure out how long before I hit pause on the voiceover and what time I hit pause on the video on the other computer, so that I could make sure that I backed it up and re-recorded over that and didn't mess up the timing on the video. But then I hit record, and it only recorded the 9 seconds that I had been recording since like the phone call, but I had been talking for 5 minutes before I realized that it only recorded for 9 seconds. So then I had to go back again and restart. It was chaotic, okay? And then any noise or any movement outside of my house, dog immediately freaks out, starts barking and screaming. I call it screaming. It's just loud barking incessantly for 5 minutes straight. So he kept doing that, and then I couldn't get anything done, and I was so upset because I was trying to record the voiceover so I could edit the video and post it today. Now I'm gonna have to edit it and post it now, but like, I wanted to do it last night. That was my goal, and I couldn't, and I was sad. But here we are. This is the Hobbit home shell for Simsie's Circle Shell Challenge. We are now looking at all the landscaping, and you can see me place a few of these debug bushes from cottage living, but then I'm gonna jump to having like 12 million, okay? You'll see it in like 2 seconds. I put some on the roof, I put some on the hill, I use the bushes, see that jump? See what I told you? I use them to disguise all that brown terrain, because if you make the terrain super high, you get like that brown cliff look, or the brown dirt on like the side of a cliff look, I guess is what I'm saying. And you can't paint over it with terrain paint. So I decided to cover it all with my little bushes and some low-lying flowers also on the ground as well as on the roof. Honestly, this was a super fun build for me. I wanted to challenge myself and use the tool mod a ton, mainly because once you add terrain like I did, if you go to place anything, it's going to place it at like where the top of that terrain is. And so everything is floating all the time. Luckily with the tool mod, you can scale and elevate things. So I was able to do that with all these boulders as well as all the plants and everything. The trees I didn't have to, they placed on top of the terrain just fine. But everything else I kind of had to sit there and like mess with for a while. And I had a lot of fun doing it. I haven't had the opportunity to do this much like intense terrain manipulation and tool mod usage, and I had a lot of fun. It took me a long time. I did cut out a lot of stuff as far as landscaping goes, because it was just me placing the same sets of plants like over and over again for an extended period of time. And so I just decided to like show you a few, and then I would cut and show you a few of the different types of plants, and you know, so on and so forth, because at the end of the day, you don't want to see me place 15 of the same bushes all changing the scale and the elevation over and over again. Like the interest is just in seeing it like once or twice, and then you're like, cool, I saw it, now please move on. So that's what I did. I mainly used cottage living debug landscaping as well as base game debug, I think. I might honestly have not used base game at all. It might have only been cottage living. I couldn't with confidence tell you. However, it is in Henford-on-Bagley, so it kind of makes perfect sense to have it all be the cottage living landscaping. Here, I'm trying to rotate that log to look like it's like sliding down the hill, but I couldn't get it to rotate. Sometimes with debug, when you do the rotating in the tool mod, they don't actually rotate in certain directions. They might only rotate in one of the axes, not in all three. So I just ended up having to like let it go and just turn it a little bit and shove it into the hill and call it a day. But I don't know. I think adding not just landscaping along the whole hills really helped with this build because I was able to leave a little bit of negative space for grass without it just looking like a big open blank space. And because there's so much landscaping in the front to hide that like brown situation, I didn't want it to look like I just like forgot the back or forgot the sides and just like left them blank. So I did try to use a little bit of variation as far as landscaping went with, you know, the cottage living debug rocks as well as those logs and some stumps and then mushrooms and just kind of like spreading out all of the landscaping so that it felt purposeful, but it also didn't feel too full. The roof on this particular build, I used the cottage living roof as well because although I tried at the very beginning to use the eco lifestyle roof, it's too green. It's like vibrant green and it just didn't work for me. So I ended up using this cottage living like grass thatched roof look as well as the trim. And I think it blended in much better. And then I messed around with the outside finish for a while. I ended up settling on this base game like wood slat wall kind of vibe because I wanted stones, but I didn't like any of the stones that were my options. They weren't bad, but they weren't quite blending in enough because I wanted this Hobbit house to look like you can't even see it, you know? So like you walk up the hill towards the waterfall and you don't even realize there's a house here. It just looks like a hill. That's really what I wanted. And I thought that the stones were a little too vibrant or a little too white or, you know, they stood out too much against all the green. So this particular base game, well, honestly, I think worked perfectly. And then I used the green door from Cottage Living and these wood windows from Jungle Adventure, which are actually just openings in the wall. So there are no glass panes in those. It's literally just like a gaping hole. But it felt really like realistic for like a Hobbit house in the middle of the woods, you know? Maybe you made it yourself, and what? If you did this all from like finding stuff or building it, you're not gonna like build your own glass, you know? Like who would do that? You're not buying windows, you're making them. So it's fine, right? We are about to jump into the interior where I do the floor plan in a second. And one thing I found super interesting while watching the first couple, the shell tours that Simsie did, because she did a couple days ago on her Twitch stream after she played Candyland with all of her friends, which by the way, so fun to watch. I loved that. But I feel like a lot of people did a very similar floor plan in this build because I think with the curves, you're very limited on where walls are going to allow you to connect to things. So it was a little more difficult to make a floor plan, but honestly, once I did it, I think it came together really nicely, to be perfectly honest with you. I really enjoy it. I end up having 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, and then that little area in the center there is like a little hallway into the bathroom as well as the 2 bedrooms. I use these cottage living columns as well as spandrels instead of archways for that hallway to kind of make it feel a little bit more grand, a little bit more interesting. I also, in a second here, I'm going to mess around with the flooring as well as the wall color because I wanted to, those poor windows, those poor bedrooms. You're supposed to have windows out of bedrooms, right? So I felt like I needed to add one for the bedrooms, but they're staring at a hillside and there's literally nothing for them to look at, but like it's fine. You know what I mean? Like it's fine. But the wallpaper, I messed around for a while with colors because I didn't want it to just be the same like brown gray that's outside. So I wanted it to have a little bit of interest, a little bit of character. So I did mess around a little bit with the colors. I keep the green in that one bedroom, but that red changes to like an off-white vertical slat. And then in the living area, I did that like orangey wood tone in the horizontal slat just to like change it up a hair. And the flooring in the bathroom, I believe, is from the Country Kitchen kit, as well as the walls actually might be from Country Kitchen as well. If not, they might be Cottage Living. But I thought that blue was really nice, and I did kind of go for that complementary blue and orange in this kitchen and like kind of in the living space. The living room itself is more of like a hodgepodgey vibe. I don't even know if that word is like a real thing that people use, but I use it, so that seems fine. This build was fun for me because I haven't done stuff like this in a really long time, of just mismatching everything, you know? So the kitchen itself is not very mismatchy. However, once you get into all the furnishing within the home, it feels very mismatched. And I loved that, to be perfectly honest with you. I really did. I also love the Country Kitchen kit cabinets, appliances, and the upper cabinets. So all those upper cabinets are all like the outside corners, the like outside 90s, the like tiny one that you typically would put over, say, a stove. But they're all so different that you can kind of like piece them together and make a very custom looking cabinet. Because if you only use the big major one, like that big blue one I'm putting that casserole dish on right now, if you only ever use that, like they're all going to look the same. But if you use all these different pieces together and all placing them naturally, I feel like it's just so interesting. Plus, all the items from that Country Kitchen kit are so good. Like, they're so good. The decor is amazing. You can see those little like metal tins and then the little like milk jug thing, plus that little wooden box with flowers in it. It's just so good. Right here, I'm about to rotate the cutting boards because that's the only counter that they can work on if you were to use this house to live in with your Sims. So I wanted to do something that was interesting with it and add some like clutter, but I didn't want to obviously take away your Sims' ability to use the kitchen. So these cutting boards mount to the wall. Instead, they're considered wall decorations or paintings or something. And so your Sims can still use that counter. I just angled them with the tool mod and rotated them slightly to look like they're leaning on the wall, which I thought was nice. This dining setup actually took me a hot second to figure out because I wanted it to fit along the curve of the wall, but I also wanted to leave enough space for your Sims to be able to interact with the furniture, obviously. I didn't playtest this. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I didn't playtest it. You know, like I'm not going to play in this build. I just did it for the shell challenge, so it looked good and I want it to function, but I didn't take the time to sit there and make sure it functioned, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. So if you download this and that dining area doesn't function, I'm so sorry. Maybe delete a chair or two, maybe make it a 2-seater instead of a 4. I'm not sure. But once I get into the living room is when I decide that I want it to kind of be like a mismatched found object kind of build, if you know what I mean. And the thing that I was thinking of when I was doing this, first I saw this like patterned rug layering that comes with the laundry day stuff, and I was like, yeah, that's what I'm using. That is cool. Okay. And then I thought, I don't know if this is like a thing everywhere, but if you go to the dump, sometimes there's this thing called like a swap shop or like this little building that has a bunch of old stuff in it that people just bring and they swap it. So like you drop off your kids' toys and you take a new toy, and then your kids are pumped to go to the dump with you and they get a little crappy toy that you're probably going to throw away in 2 months anyways. But it's a fun experience. So I thought, what better way to do this entire build than to make it feel like it's all like, you know, somebody left that dining chair on the side of the road for free, so you took it. Somebody left this couch on the side of the road for free, and you were like, yeah, I'll take that. You walk to the swap shop and you found this like random coffee table thing, and you're like, cool, I'll take that. Or even you made it like this crafted end table right there. Ooh, I made that. Cool, let's just throw it over here. You know, I just wanted it to feel like the person who lives here isn't going to sit there and go and buy a whole dining set. Like that just doesn't feel realistic. And so maybe they got the table from one person, one chair from another person, one chair from the side of the road, you know? It felt really authentic that way. So here I'm trying to place a bookshelf because it's not a lot of skill building stuff in this house, and I wanted to give your Sims at least one option of things to do. They do have a TV, which could provide a lot of entertainment and some skill building if you watch like the cooking channel or the comedy channel. However, the bookshelf gives you a lot more options. You know, you can buy books on any skill in the game essentially and be able to learn it all that way. But now I am just going through and finding wall decorations to use throughout the entire home, to be perfectly honest with you. I took the time to just like dig through and find anything that kind of worked with the build and pulled it out all together at once, just to make sure that I had all the things that I wanted. And then I moved them around as I pleased. This wall, I do end up adding one painting later. I think it looks, is it a painting? Yeah, it's the cottage living painting that I add later. But I also use those little wooden signs from base game and chalkboard, and then the laundry day. I don't know what that thing is called, where you just like scrub the clothes on it. I don't know. But the reason I did more wall decorations than I did paintings and things is because I didn't want to use a lot of the base game or even any of the paintings that you have in the game, because sometimes I feel like the paintings look like paintings, I guess. And in a house like this, a random painting like that didn't feel right to have. If you think of like Dream Home Decorator artwork or Tiny Living artwork, it didn't feel right. So I wanted to make sure that I went through and I added either things that looked like photographs, things that could have been made by someone like these wooden signs or things, or things that were like old antique looking paintings. You know what I mean? Because that felt more like the vibe here. If I were to just throw in like a random modernized painting, I don't think it would make a lot of sense. But the blue theme from the kitchen does go into the bathroom here. I have a shower tub combo. I have an antique looking toilet as well as a pedestal sink. I use the cats and dogs medicine cabinet in blue over the sink, and then the Tiny Living shelf, which had like a blue swatch. So I used that because it fit the theme really well. And then I added the broom and dustpan because that felt pretty realistic for this. There is no other places to really store that kind of stuff. So I thought maybe, you know, in the bathroom would be a good spot for it. We are moving on to the primary bedroom. Excuse me, had to clear my throat. In here, I went for a like craftsman style furniture, I guess. I don't really know the best way to describe it, but I definitely tried to use, maybe not craftsman, maybe it's called mission style furniture. I also wanted to use this like beat up rug. I think it's from Get Famous. It might not be, but I ended up putting it in the kids' room, and you'll see me mess with that in a minute. But I do end up using just like the plain swatch of rug that comes with base game. I scale it like I do with most things in this build, especially with the curves, because not all the rugs are going to fit along that curve. So I did scale a lot of stuff to just make sure it would stay within the confines of the room. And then I used a lot of outdoor retreat in here as well. So I'm about to pull the bench right there from outdoor retreat that looks like a cutout log. And then that mirror looks like it was cut out and like put together using like logs and wood that you would have found. That dresser also feels very much like that. That might be outdoor retreat as well, since the color swatch is the same. And then I end up going through and I take the lights, the overhead lights out of that room, and I add a lot more lamps. Because, you know, in like older homes or things that are not, you know, new construction builds, you don't really tend to have overhead down lights or recessed lighting. So I wanted to make sure that it kind of felt more authentic in that way. And I took out the overhead light in this room and added, I think, 3 different lamps throughout. Yes, 3 lamps. I'm doing some decorating now. I do take a break and ignore the walls for a while because the wall decorations in here, because there's no windows or just very little window, it requires a lot of decorations, and I couldn't find stuff that I really loved for this room. So I ended up leaving it for a while, and I move on to the kids' bedroom and I deal with the walls later. So in here, I'm going to be putting 2 kids' beds. I use this cats and dogs bed with the quilt on it because that felt authentic, right? Like, you're not going out and buying a matching comforter set. You're just buying, or somebody made you these quilts, or you made them yourselves and now that's what you use. It feels very cabiny to me. I go through and I do add some toys, but the amount of toys in this room is very minimal compared to what like a standard kids room would be. So I have that little Yeti from the backyard stuff kit or whatever it is, little campers kit and little campers kit. I don't know. Over there, as well as that like pallet box chair with a blanket over it, I added the high school years dresser, as well as I changed this mirror out to the Jungle Adventure mirror. And then I just add some decorations, and honestly, that's it for toys. Like the Yeti is the only thing they really have for children. This would probably be a better like teens room, but I'm picturing like a small family. Maybe this is like a cool Airbnb rental or, you know, some sort of unique vacation style home where you just come to like experience the build rather than to actually be there. So when I was going through, this is probably my favorite part of the build. I know it seems so minor, but I loved it. I took the little campers kit pillows and I rotate them with the tool mod and make it look like they're leaning against the headboard, and then like they fit on the bed. And the reason I love that so much was because it kind of made it feel like, you know, you're visiting family and your kids brought their pillows from home, so they don't match. I have two different swatches. So say your sheet set at home is like this pattern and you brought your pillow from home on vacation with you and now you're putting it on your bed. I don't know. I thought that was super cute. And the artwork in here is also not as many paintings and more like antique looking stuff, I guess, is really what I'm going for. Like I take out those little pet posters and I put the cottage living posters up. I took the Strangerville artwork, which looks like it doesn't belong in a kid's room, which I think is why I liked it so much, because it's like this antiqued old frame, ornate frame with this cool painting in it. And then I do add some like random little banners that are like from Discovery University. I think they're college themed over one of the beds. Maybe, you know, if this is a family's cabin or something, the kid likes these particular schools, or the person who owns the Airbnb went to these colleges or something, you know, so they just have decorations to show that. And there wasn't a ton of stuff to really fit on the walls that felt right. So there isn't a lot of kids related items. It definitely feels like an adult decorated it, you know? But now I'm finally in the parents' bedroom, or the primary bedroom again, adding some artwork that I finally figured out what I wanted. It took me a while, but I finally got it. I used those architectural blueprint elevation style artworks over the dresser as well as the bed, and then I end up going in and those like patents, they look like patents, like antique patent paintings, I end up putting over the right there. I do that, and then I mess around a little bit, but I think that's honestly a majority of the build, so I'm gonna go. I hope you all enjoyed this. Like and comment down below if you did, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day, week, month, or year. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any more videos, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!